I am Angelia Stone. I am the CEO of Hope Magazine. Hello, Hope Gems, and welcome to our Tuesday night Hope Chat Live. I am your host, Angelia Stone, and I am the CEO and founder of Hope Magazine. Wow, seems like we were just chatting just like yesterday. I am excited. Well, since the last time I spoke to you, was I on vacation? Yes, I was on vacation. I was in some nice, warm, fabulous sun, and let me just tell you, I'm refreshed and I am ready to go. I'm happy that you decided to join me on tonight. We have an amazing sister friend, an amazing guest, an amazing show that's lined out today. This is definitely going to be a girlfriend conversation, but it's going to be great. Let me just say that it's going to be great. So, each week we strive to bring you our friends and supporters, great women and men of influence and expertise. And we don't mind even a little or a whole lot of fabulosity at some time. As we prepare for our show, take a moment to like, tag, and share with your girlfriends and friends. If you're in the group tonight, make sure you're tagging and inviting different people, to your friends and everybody, to join our show. I love to see you. I love to see you. I love that you are, for those of you, you are already doing that, and thank you so much. But I want to encourage you tonight to continue to do just that. Tonight, we are so happy. I'm so happy to have joining our show tonight, Miss Gail Dudley, advocate, communicator, and strategist. Here's a little bit about my girlfriend, Gail. Just call her the Audacious Advocate. Gail makes bold moves by highlighting entrepreneurs, nonprofits, causes, and political platforms through her media outlet. She is the influential host of News in Motion, weekdays news with relevant commentary and call to action mixed with an inspirational message, advocating and shaking up the status quo. She has a loyal and engaged audience across multiple platforms. Her purpose is to uplift people and unlock their potential by inspiring people with a call to action. Gail's intersection moves her to provoke, tackle controversial topics, peel away layers of complacency, and encourage international conversation while positively impacting individuals, families, community, and the world. We're going to take a quick commercial break. And as we bring our guests into the studio, our amazing Gail into the studio, if you haven't already done so, take a moment. Like we said, share this chat with a girlfriend, email, text, and I look forward to seeing you in just a minute. Miss Gail. Welcome
What's
back.
up?
Welcome back, everybody, to our show. We have Miss Gail Dudley in the studio with us today. Hello, Miss Lady.
Hello, hello. How are you? How was that vacation?
Oh, it was necessary, needed, on time. Everything you could think positive. That's exactly what I needed.
Good for you.
Long
Good for
overdue.
you.
I'm gonna have to do that more often.
As long as I can get in your suitcase and you take me with
Okay,
you.
well, you have to definitely come with me next time. I'm sure we've done that we've done that before. We can do a girlfriend's getaway. So we're gonna jump right into our chat with Miss Gail. Gail, I know you're always an advocate for others and strategizing, but how does Gail live her best? So speaking of living our best life, how do you live your best life?
Listen, it took me a long time to get here, but I live my best life by putting myself first,
Mm-hmm.
taking time off, self-care. In the beginning, I thought that was just a buzzword,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a part of my life every week actually now. I live my best life. I've been in lately into this whole health thing, like this
Mm-hmm.
holistic piece lately,
Really?
since really the beginning of the year. So
Mm-hmm.
the exercising, the trying to eat right. I went on this 40-day sugar fast. Now I'm kind of like living it because I went back to like go back into some sweets.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't working for me. It was like, "Ew, this is nasty." So
Mm-hmm.
so really just taking care of myself. So self-care, traveling, doing things, just uplifting, reading. I now do a book a month that I'm reading. Sometimes I'm doing two.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided that starting next quarter, I want to take up a new language, but I'm not for sure which one that's going to be yet.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I love that. That's kind of like the trend. It's and I wouldn't say trend, but I love that is on everyone's to do in awareness is to start taking
Yeah,
care of themselves.
absolutely.
Because a lot of times you look up and Gavin, you're in your 40s, you're in your 50s, and you think, wow, here I am, and you have to realize how important, your body is. So
Yeah.
good for you. Now let's talk about the Audacious Advocate. What do you focus on as you make bold moves through your media outlet? How do you advocate? And the next question. So this is loaded. And how do you advocate for others?
Yeah, it is a loaded one, but I can answer that. It's interesting. News and Motion started. People were asking if I started because we were locked up during the pandemic. But I have a love for politics and news,
Mm-hmm.
and I was realizing that so many people were unaware of the different components and how to connect the dots when it comes to politics, for
Mm-hmm.
example.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so from that, I would even ask my family. We would be at family gatherings even before News and Motion. And I would say, okay, everyone, tell me your district. What district do you live in? They were looking at me like, what are you talking about? Who are your representatives?
Mm-hmm.
No one really cared. They just knew to go vote. So I try to advocate for people by bringing an awareness of these are the things that we should look for and not just have a popularity contest or a sound bite, but
Mm-hmm.
let's actually research the people who are running for office and then vote based upon that research and not based upon a soundbite. So that's one way of advocating for people.
Mm-hmm.
With my parents now, 87 and 88, my mom has gone through a really horrific health journey. She's currently bedridden, and just to understand Medicare. And that took me to where I became her advocate. And believe it or not, in the rehab center, I was other people's advocates because they were like, how are you doing this? How do you know what questions to ask? I said, you kind of learn as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I developed something to start passing out to other people about that because people aren't aware. Like I would get questions because when they were about to release my mom, um, I realized there were different paths that you could take, and they have Medicare, not Medicaid. Well,
Mhm.
because they own their home, it's not like they can just sign their home over to one of their children. You have to have that home signed over 5 years and a day, which I have no idea what the day means,
Mhm.
or why they add a day. But just knowing all these pieces and parts and who to contact, and it's so much involved in that, that we all really need to learn that early on, but we don't even think about those things.
Mhm.
So I end up advocating for adults, I end up for seniors, and I end up advocating for people, period, promoting them, encouraging them, helping them, looking at their journey, giving them suggestions. So I'm always that cheerleader for people. And it's been a part of me. My mom and dad have both told me over the past year or two, they were like, "You've done that since you were a little kid. You were always advocating for somebody." And we were like, "Advocate for yourself." But
Mhm.
my heart just goes towards other people. But when I see a need, those who are food insecure, same thing. It's like, how do we get these individuals food? What do we need to do? How do we help? How do we navigate them to complete their application to get the food? Because so many people are not using the resources because they don't know how.
They
They
don't.
don't even know where to start.
Right.
So that's a part of my advocacy. And it really makes my heart sing. It makes me live day to day.
I love that. I think that's so important. You touched on a lot of key things. Is that I think a lot of that deals with of just not knowing, and just
Mhm.
being ignorant, and not ignorant in a bad way, but just ignorant to things that we just didn't know as a culture, and as our
That's
families,
true.
far as homes. And, you don't think that, your parents may get, that they're going to get older, and they may have to be in a facility, and, is they've already went through so much with the whole redlining, that all those things, then to think that they would have to get to a space where they may have to sign over their home to a nursing home or
Right.
assisted living facility and things like that. And then you get there and realize you didn't have that 5 years in a day. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You had no clue. I work for the branch of the federal government that works with elderly people with the Medicare. And, again, a lot of people just don't know that, there's resources out there that, that we don't acknowledge power of attorney, where
Exactly.
there's a lot of weight. But with
Yeah.
um, Social Security, you need to have, if you feel prior, your parents or individuals, your loved ones may need to have you might need to become their representative payee. That's
Right.
we, acknowledge, and that's the way that you can advocate for those, so that, like, something happens, we're not going to tell you nothing about their social security check. If you're not a representative payee, you are not going to find out. Now, I don't care if that's my mama, I'm her oldest daughter, and I handle all her business. No, we need you to become the representative payee. So, but I like that. And even when you were talking about political, is I learned so much following you on social media, because it was a lot in the last, what, oh gosh, 12 years per se, because there's been
Yeah.
a lot going on in the last, since 2008, when, in it, and just becoming educated on the whole system of political, because we didn't know, I didn't know, I can just speak for myself, a lot of things I didn't know about the popular vote and all these things like that. I just thought, I just went to vote. My dad didn't, I just knew, he told my mom and dad, said, you, when you turn 18, you got to vote, straight Democrat. I mean, that was just it. You don't
I
know
think we all got that lesson.
don't know who was on the ticket. You don't know what they doing. You just gonna go vote. You're gonna go vote straight Democrat. And so, but I really love how you use your platform to be able to educate and inform and empower us through the various elections, and not just the national scale, but how you're there and an advocate for those of your local and regional area as well. So You go, girl.
Listen, it gets tiring at times. There's times I'm like exhausted.
Hmm.
Um, I was looking at, and I was sharing this on News and Motion the other morning. I was looking at some of the bills coming out of Florida,
Wow. You got
and
a lot going on down there.
there's a lot going on down there.
Somebody text
And
me today about
regardless,
something. Someone text me today about something going on, Bill in Mississippi. I'm like, what?
yeah, it's crazy. And it's like, and I tell people, it's like, I'm sharing this information not based upon what side of the aisle you're on. I said, but we have to make this make sense. And so the one in Florida, there's a bill on the floor this week to get rid of the Democratic Party in Florida. And I was like, make that make sense. And then when you register, you can only register for one party that is considered a majority party. So you can only then register for the Republican Party. And I said, that's so unfair. Even if you are Republican, that's unfair. So I started connecting the dots for people. And it was interesting because people were thinking I was just like making it up, and I'm always telling them, research it yourself. By noon yesterday, I had so many emails saying, oh my word, I read this bill. Make this make sense. Help me understand it. I live in Florida, wasn't aware that this was happening. What can I do? I said, you have to call your representatives. That's what you have to do. And people don't even know what to say or even call. So I've been putting
Mhm.
together templates for things like that as well. And that's that advocacy piece. Yeah, believe it or not, people will vote because they'll say, well, I'm a woman, this is a woman, so I'm gonna pick this woman. I'm like,
Right.
why? Did you do your research? She may not have been the right person to choose for this time. And it's getting people to really become more aware. So it's been exhausting, but I cannot give up, not yet.
That's right. That's awesome. I love that. As you know, we are in uncertain times of racial injustice,
Yes,
food insecurities, political unrest,
yes.
and even war and rumors of wars. How do you speak to the fear and anxiety? Like you said, you had all those emails and private text messages. How do you speak to the fear and anxiety that may be pressing in the minds of individuals?
Yeah, that's a hard one. Because even for me, um, last year I shared with the followers, I said, I've gone through a 500,000 news alerts for the year. And
Mm,
I pick and choose which ones I'm going to put out there.
mhm,
And I'm always thinking like this is going to be a heavy day or a heavy week. And people do become extremely concerned, and they should.
mhm,
But it's like, but you still have the power of your voice, you have the power of your vote, and you have to be willing to raise up and use your voice.
mhm.
Um, and my thing is get people to register, but not just get them to register to vote. Actually, make sure they go out and vote, and make sure they have voter education to go along with that.
Mhm.
Um, there was a lot of information. People were because my emails out there. So there were a lot in this past weekend about Walgreens. And I said, you have to make your own decision when it comes to Walgreens. I said, but you can call the CEO. Here's the address to the corporate headquarters. You can move your prescriptions if you're against what they're saying. I said, you don't just have to sit there and take it. There are things that we can do. I said, then contact your representatives. You would be amazed how many people have no idea who the representatives are. And
Right.
I'm like, that's not smart. That's not even healthy. At least have that point of contact, but you can't call them up and cuss them out. You have to call them up and say, hey, I'm your constituent. I'm seeing this is happening. What can I do to come alongside you? Can I write a letter? Whatever that looks like. And then I tell people, I'm a praying woman. I tell people to pray.
Right.
There are some uncharted times, some very concerning things that are happening. I mean, right now we have someone that's in the House chamber that's not even his name. And I keep telling people, I say, we're all telling this person to resign, but that's not his name. I said, his name is something totally different. I said, actually, he has 5 aliases. I said, so the question is, what's his current name right now? I said, that's concerning.
Right.
That right there is concerning, that
Very.
you have someone who was able to finagle their way onto a ballot, get beyond and past everything with no one really vetting this person. And now that he's in the office, we're learning all of these things were falsified.
Wow. And
That's
that's
concerning.
it really is concerning. It's concerning that the things that are being let in and go just for a vote, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
just for uh, saving a certain demographic, you know what I'm saying? And that's really, it's really unfortunate. It
it
really is.
really
People
is. It
do,
really is.
people do, and it's like people are desperate and they're just doing what they're just doing whatever, you know, this whatever, and it's really dangerous, really is. So
It really is. I mean, the fact that we're still fighting for voting rights,
exactly, you
it's
know,
like that.
and you know, we still, I mean, and to read, Gail, that we're still talking about passing laws about lynching. Who would even want to, that word shouldn't even be uttered because
Right.
of the stain and just the whole thought process around the word lynching. You shouldn't even say
It shouldn't.
why. It shouldn't
Why? Yeah.
even, you know what I'm saying? Shouldn't even be discussed, you know?
Right. And then the way that representative put it out there talking about hang them by a tree. Like, is this real? Like,
Yeah,
I actually had to go find the real video. I didn't want just a sound bite. I wanted to see what led up to that.
mhm.
And then when I read the entire bill, which I think it was House Bill 1245, yes, I do read all these crazy bills because I want to make sure I'm understanding them.
Yeah.
I said, wow, they're talking about execution by a firing squad in
Right.
2023.
Right.
Like, are we really here? It's like,
Right.
this does not make any sense.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. What is your definition of hope after saying all that? What is your definition of hope?
You know, it has changed over the past maybe 3 or 4 years. My current definition is to keep looking forward, um, for something good that's gonna come from all of this. And I'm thinking, are we in that era at this point in time where we're going to experience some of what our great-grandparents or great-great-grandparents experienced, and they were able to stay the course. Now, to be honest with
Like,
you,
yeah, we should be so far beyond that.
we should be. We should be. We should be.
You
And
know?
yeah, and the thing that worries me the most, if I can be completely honest and vulnerable here,
Mhm.
is that we won't stop doing what we enjoy because it makes us comfortable. So, well, I work for so and so, so I can't say anything because I may not get my raise, and the raise is more important. And I get it, and I understand. I know there's a rub there. But, like, we won't boycott certain things because we're used to having it, going there, doing it. And I'm thinking, but you're pouring money into the very thing that they're using to make sure you stay suppressed in your vote.
Right.
And are we willing to say, okay, this isn't worth it for me? And my hope there is that we will wake up, regardless that people have taken stay woke and used it as a negative. But I'm saying stay woke and use it as a positive to say, let's look at what's really happening here. So my hope is we will wake up. CPAC over the weekend with Nikki Haley, who's running for the Republican on the Republican presidential ticket, she said, and I cannot get this out of my head. She says wokeness has become a virus more dangerous than the pandemic.
And
Are
that's
you kidding me? So because I'm awake and I'm asking questions, you're saying that I'm dangerous?
and that's how.
Really? That's disturbing to me, and that rhetoric is even being used.
Mhm.
Um, and so again, my hope is that we will wake up, regardless of what anyone says, and say, okay, we're going to come together, not violently, but we're going to come together and say, okay, there's something that has to be done. How do we get this voting rights passed? And
Mhm.
then I also push back on our current president and say, you use the executive power to do other things. Why not do an executive order to do this?
Exactly. Mm. You're right.
You got me started, girl.
Oh, I'm sorry. I love it. I love it. I love it. Your tagline is at the intersection of people, politics, and prayer. What does this mean?
Well, people are first to me. So I'm
Mhm.
always looking at the people, and I think everything is political. So politics come behind that, and prayer is we have to pray to when we're looking at those two things. Because people, there are people who are either marginalized or they're that 1%, and
Mhm.
there's very few of us in the middle there. Even in between that marginal being marginalized and 1%, we're on the other end closer to being marginalized. And so my thing is we have to pray that, for me, my prayer is that that we pray to see that the people who are currently marginalized will come on over, that there's a way we can reach back and pull them on over into that middle ground there, so that we're not we're not placing judgment on people who are struggling, and we will have a heart to make sure they come through. Because the truth is, for me, I think many of us are one paycheck away from becoming marginalized.
Oh,
It's,
absolutely.
it's like, what can we do? I'm real big, and I'm so glad when we have a lot of high schoolers. There's classrooms who tune in with us in the mornings, where schools will say, "Hey, we're coming in as a classroom. What are you talking about?" Because they want to make sure I'm not doing anything crazy. And I'm like,
Right.
follow the show. I'm not doing anything crazy. But, I'm just wanting to keep educating people. It's like, what are we doing? When I don't know if you saw the article about the Texas school where the janitor had to come back in from retiring. And one of the students, a senior, saw him. He said, "What are you doing here?" He said, "Oh, my rent went up $400 a month." In addition to what he was paying.
Mhm.
And so this high school student said, "Oh no, that's not going to happen." They started a GoFundMe. They thought they were going to raise 60,000. I think it was up to $300,000 like within a week.
Wow. Isn't that
And
something?
so he was able to retire again and use that money.
Oh, it's
And I'm like,
very
that's the
necessary.
hope that students will step in and do things like that.
Mhm. I love that. I love
So
that.
that's the
I see
prayer part
that.
with the people and then the politics.
I love that. Well, I definitely love that tagline. It's really powerful. Definitely powerful. You are also a great advocate. Well, we've already talked about for voting. How do you work with individuals? And we talked about this. If you want to shed a little bit more light about how do you work with individuals to help them make informed decisions when voting.
Yeah.
I love how you talked about we just don't wait until the big vote, but you should really get involved. So you want to share a little bit more about that? That would.
Yeah. Where do I start? How long we have? No.
You never did. And I think that's what I'm so excited when I look and read and watch, like even watch you, Gail, and how to get excited about voting is how that one thing was used from like really the foundation of this landscape is to stop a particular demographic. Well, this even went from women just to, people, black people, and just still today, how powerful people don't realize how powerful that is. We watched with when President Obama was elected and how Indiana is a red state. We've seen red states go blue
Mhm,
and with the power of a vote.
mhm,
So
mhm,
talk to us about how, people don't think their vote matters, but talk to us about
mhm.
that.
Absolutely. So many people, let's see, where do I start? So many people think that their voice or their vote, that it doesn't matter. I'm just another person.
Mm-hmm.
There were races, and I talked about this right after the midterm elections 2022. And I said the reason there was not a blue wave or red wave, and they were shooting for the red wave, is because the blue wave held the line. which means they were still out there in numbers. They were still standing in lines to vote. The early voting is key. And that's one thing that where the Republicans come in at, they want the early voting to decrease. And as you're seeing, the red states are pulling that back because there's an opportunity for us to get out there and to vote. Also, souls to the polls, which is usually the Sunday before the election in the Black community where the churches go and vote. And those lines can last, I don't know, 6-7 hours because people are coming from church, they're singing hymns, they're going from way back down south, doing what they do and enjoying it. Let's take Georgia for an example. Georgia, people kind of like laughed about it, but it's true. I could not walk up to somebody in Georgia and during voting and it's 100 degrees outside and say, here's a bottle of water. That person will be pulled out of that line thinking that I was interfering with that person's vote. And then could also take away my right to vote as well. And it's like, people didn't read that bill. I said, no, that's true. That's true. But, you cannot hand water out. So we have to educate them and tell them, leading up to the 2020 election, as well as the 2022 elections, I would give a list every day on News in Motion. And the list went something like this, and I don't have it in front of me, but I was like, have a portable charger to your cell phone charged up. Make sure your phone is charged up. I said, take a protein bar, take some water. I said, if you have to take a little cooler, I said, take a chair that you can sit in, take something to read. I said, no deviled eggs. Believe it or not, I was saying this. If you're in a hot place, don't, because the mayonnaise is going to get sour. Something's going to happen. Don't do that. And then we made fun out of it too, where I said, okay, ladies, leggings, not tights. There's a difference in the two. So we made it fun, but at the same time, people started remembering that list and people would say, okay, what should I have on my list? And so people were starting to form a checklist because that's a part of the education. I'm like, if you in line, don't leave the line, even if the doors close at 7 p.m. If you were in line at 6:59, you have every right to stay there. I don't know if you remember in Kentucky where they had to open back up the doors because they ended up locking them. This was in 2020. They ended up locking them about 15 minutes before or something like that. But there was probably another hour or two of people in line. Well, they had to open those back up. So I always provide them with the vote number, which is the 800 number. Also, if there's any funny business, open that up. So that's the advocacy part. So I'm like constantly giving this information out. I was outside one of the polling locations in Columbus, Ohio in 2020. This young man came out and he was sad. And, you can't be real close to the door. You have to be away so many feet. And so I said, what's going on? And this Black man, he says, I can't vote. I said, why? He said, because I don't have, I think it was a license. I said, but I see you have your passport. He said, I do. I said, oh, no. You go back in there. You have a right to vote. And so he went in and they sent him back out. I said, okay, I'm going to write down for you everything you need to say. So I wrote it down. He went in there, read it. They were mad. They pushed me further away from the door because he got the right to vote. Yeah. And he talked about it. He came out. He said, wow, thank you. He said, I was ready to leave. We cannot be so afraid to stand up, but we have to be educated to know that we have every right to stand in that line. So one of the things that I do to advocate during the voting season is understand the laws. Like people have no idea that there's a space for a person who has a visual impairment. Every voting location should have a place that has Braille. Now, it's a law. Most people don't know that even exists. If you have a different language, same thing. And people are just saying, I can't vote, so I'm not going to. Races were so close this last time. That's why they had to keep voting in some of the counties over and over and over again because they were that close. Take Arizona. How close was that with Kari Lake almost becoming the governor of Arizona? They were that close because people came out to vote. And I think that's going to set what I call a precedent, as we know that's going to set going forward because people are going to be able to use those to say, now, look, we held the line in 2022, and here are the reasons why, and getting more people out there to vote. Yeah, and I can say with Georgia, those lines in 2020 were long. They were extremely long also in 2022. And then the runoff, that's how we ended up with the runoff with Warnock and Walker.
Mhm.
And even that runoff, the same thing. And my daughter lives in Georgia, and she's like, Mom, she called me and showing me the line. She said, Mom, where I'm at right now, this line is 3 hours and 15 minutes long. And I said, and you gonna stand right there in that line. And she kind of laughed with me. But it's like that encouragement to just stay the course until you get all the way through. And so that's a part of advocacy. And again, it gets exhausting. I cannot tell you how exhausting it becomes
You
because
know,
you just think people can automatically do it.
as I was listening to you, Gail, I think about, some of the things how you said handing water bottles, these little things, and it took my mind back to the times in the 50s, and how that when you had the Fannie Lou Hamer, different ones were advocating for, voting rights and things like that, and how that, for, to for certain people, for us not to be able to vote, we have to recite all these ridiculous things. You know what I'm saying? And
Yep.
it's basically, this is really what we're dealing with today as what they were doing then. Okay, name all the last 20 years, just silly things, how they would the things that would prevent them from voting.
Right, right,
And they weren't, a lot of them weren't grandfathered in because their grandfathers, we couldn't vote, so
right.
so it was just a mess. So that's why it's so important, like, like I said, I love how you're an advocate and how you're educating all of us on what we need to do this, do this, do this, do this. You're kind of like our green book person today.
Someone told me that about a couple weeks ago, and I said, "I remember that green book." I
The
said, "I
green
think there's a
book.
new one out there somewhere, or somebody was working on one." So,
I love it. Do you feel women, and I know I already know this is, do you feel women should become more relevant in politics?
absolutely. Absolutely. In my e-newsletter that I put out every Monday, I've been putting a block in there telling people, are you a leader? Do you love politics? There's trainings going on right now. Check out Emily's list. Check out She Should Run. Check out I Run for Office. I said, there's so many resources out there. Just do it. Even if you want to start small, like if you want to start as a commissioner or PTA, PTO, and move up from there, do it.
Mhm.
Just run, 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 run.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. What's next for Gail Dudley and News in Motion? I know that new, like you said, you have how many news wires? I'm just like, okay, well, she's all she, we know you're not going to be busy, but tell us what's next.
Wow. I don't know, honestly, because here's the truth. And the viewers knew this. I wasn't sure I was coming back after Christmas of
Mhm.
2022. I was like, okay, I've done my time. I'm over. And I had my little talk with Jesus, and he was like, I never told you that. Like, you may be tired, but we're going to figure out another way to get this done.
Uh-huh.
And so I realized that it was just me being exhausted, and I had to find a way to balance everything. Because when I'm looking at news, like even from the time I got off the air this morning till, I don't know, 6 o'clock this evening, I'm sure I'm going to see some more news by morning. The amount of news that can wipe you dry, it was almost every piece of news that was coming in was, I'm gonna put in the classification of horrific. And I'm like, what is going on with us as a country? There's 5 women in Texas who are suing the Texas government because of the whole abortion law. There's the murder of 2 people in Mexico crossing the border, and the whole thing with the woman was going for some sort of surgery or
Right,
something.
right, right.
And that put me in this place of, But if we had better health care, we wouldn't be doing this. You know, we wouldn't have to cross a border to get something done. We wouldn't have to cross a border to get cheaper prescriptions. There's a prescription I need. And I have some darn good insurance. After the insurance take care of their portion, something that I absolutely need costs $1,108. Well, who's gonna buy that?
It's ridiculous.
I can't afford that. So what do I do? And then the equivalent of that medication, and I think I have this condition called lymphomatoid papulosis. It's a skin cancer. The equivalent of that breaks me out even worse. So I can't even use that. So my only option is this one. Well, who has $1,108 to do this?
Exactly. That's just
So what's next for us? I'm trying to figure out how to move forward with more like an advocacy firm where we're dealing with issues like this and making connections and whatever. Because I spent half of my afternoon looking for, okay, where are the coupons to be able to do this insurance? Is there some sort of patient's assistance? And then I don't qualify for any of these things. I'm like, so y'all just
insurance, and so you can't get all the extra stuff. So yeah,
right. So I'm just sitting like, what do I do? So I had some lady on the phone today because I've called so many people. I said, okay, I've called all these people. She said, wow, you've done all that? Yes. I said, so what can I do? She says, well, and then this is what she says to me. And I was like, is this easy? She goes, go to urgent care and see if they have a sample.
Oh Lord, okay. And most of them do. Most of them do, because they do.
Yeah, and I said, the fact that you have to do that?
Right.
So that's where I'm going. Like, what are the needs of the people, and how can I have a team of people together, and I'm calling them News in Motion ambassadors. How do I get ambassadors together to help service people on a regular basis?
I love that. I love that.
But you know us, so we need money to do it. So
yeah, okay, yeah. You had to spend all that time writing and applying for grants and all that. Trust me, I get it. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand. So how can our audience connect with you and follow you, Gail? How do we sign up for News in Motion newsletter? How can we get the morning? How can we get text message alert? How do we follow you?
Yeah. Well, if you go to my website, which is gaildudley.com, on the homepage, the subscribe here, and there's like a vote picture next to it. You can complete that. And even when you complete that, you get a voting resource guide, which is like 8 or 10 pages with a bunch nonpartisan. It's a nonpartisan voting resource guide. And then check us out on News in Motion. We have a blast. It's 7:25 a.m. Eastern time, Monday through Thursday. And of course, the replays are up there, so you can check that out as well. The Facebook page is News in Motion, or my YouTube, which is youtube.com/Gail Dudley. My Instagram and Twitter, I'm still on Twitter for the moment, is Gail Dudley.
I like that for the moment.
For the moment.
Okay.
I think well, and then my LinkedIn is also Gail Dudley. So I think there might be a middle initial E in my LinkedIn. But yeah, we would love to hang out. Come on over. Let's have some fun. And don't forget, you're on my podcast. That launches next Friday. So
yes. That was a great chat. It's all it's always great chatting with you.
It was. I loved it. We were just so real. I just loved it. So the podcast is called Politics and Prose Podcast with Gail Dudley. So that comes out every Friday it launches at 7 a.m., but it's recorded so people can get it at any time. So I'm just having fun. It's strange that I'm now 57 and I'm just starting to have like a blast.
And I'm still shocked by that. When you told me that, I'm like, what? Okay.
So I'm just having fun. I'm like, why not learn this stuff early on? I could have been getting so much more work done.
I know. I love it. I love where you have evolved to. I love who you are. I love how you shifted from one one area to still be in media, to be able to still educate and inform and like empower everybody, and not young, like in this, even in this chat, you talked about empowering young people as well as educating our elderly, So I think that is just, that's just who Gail Dudley is,
Yeah,
and
I'm having fun. I'm really having
I
fun.
love that you're having, and that's a good place to be. When you asked me how I enjoy vacation, and when if you ask me how am I enjoying things now, the last 6 months, I am happy. I am,
Good.
it's just, I haven't felt this, and it's just a good place. Who I'm surrounded
Mm.
by, and how just when you start trimming the fat and trimming things, and just like you get in this space, and I mean, it's just a good place. And I definitely see that happiness on you, Gail.
Good. Yeah, it's a good place. I'm with you. It's a great place. Even through the exhaustion, even through the
Mm-hmm.
times it's like, okay, I'm exhausted. It's
Mm-hmm.
still like I wouldn't trade this in. Come on, I get up at 4 a.m. every morning
I
to
you
do
know
news
what?
and
I
motion,
see what the
you
Lord,
know?
the God ain't spoke to me to get up. If my team start talking about, well, we need you to get up early, I'm like, no, that is not him speaking.
And there's nights that I don't sleep, like, for example, like the
Woo.
State of the Union, because it went so long, and I'm
Uh-huh.
fact checking everything, and it's
Mhm.
like I probably dozed off for about an hour, had to pop back up and do the show and check
Yeah,
out any
I
other
got
breaking news,
that.
but I love it. It's like I'm up, ready to go, like, "Let's do
Well,
this."
that's just what I said. That's some people's calling. That's their gift, honey. But I would read this. Like I'll read this. I'll watch and listen and read or whatever the sound bites.
I get it, I get
No,
it.
I am just not a morning person at all. If it was left up to me, I would sleep in, and I would start my day at 10 a.m. and then I'm ready to go. Uh, Well, thank you so much for joining us again, and all of you that joined us tonight, and with this amazing chat with the incredible Gail Dudley.
Thank you.
Again, we'll share, where to follow, where to subscribe, and just, for all you morning people, you can get up early, or if you can be like me, you catch things on the other end. But it's been a pleasure having you join us on today. Yeah, I really look forward to this chat. I appreciate who you are, our friendship, our sisterhood. And again, thank you so much again.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it. I really, it's funny. I was going through our picture with Monica and Cheryl the
Uh-huh.
other day.
And that's something that is always on my phone. Always, I have that in my phone index. Always.
I love that picture, but thank you so much. I really enjoyed myself tonight sharing with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. We got to do this part two. So we may have to do a whole when time for elections and all that stuff. We may have to do something special.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gail. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you. I told you that was going to be incredible. Gail Dudley is phenomenal. She's just loaded with so much knowledge and just talent and gift, and just she loves giving and pouring into individuals and just educating us. And that's what I love about our chats and our guests. We just keep growing with these amazing women that are just there just to give. um, Thank you so much again for joining us. I look forward to seeing you all on next week for our show. Pay attention to our pages. If you came in or tuned in late to this, um, make sure you catch the recap. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook, and our Instagram page. And until next Tuesday, I'll see you soon.